If you have any questions or comments in the chat, feel free to drop those in. I'll respond when I can. And if you want to raise your digital hand, you can, and I'll call on you to respond to whatever it is you might want to share. All right, so this is all about authentic sales. It's about networking calls, discovery calls, sales calls in a way that feels good and gets results. And the way I created this presentation, this workshop, is I rambled on to AI text to speech for about 20 to 30 minutes about everything that I thought about effective and relational discovery calls and sales calls. And then AI made that into this presentation. So most of it is words and thoughts that came from me, but it may be a bit different because AI takes some artistic liberty sometimes. All right, so you already know a little bit about me. If you don't, I'm a business guide. I prefer that to coach. And as you know, I'm the host of the Aligned Entrepreneur Network community. A little bit about me is that when I first started my online business, it wasn't as a creator like I am now helping other entrepreneurs. It was actually affiliate marketing, and it was insurance, and it was also high ticket sales closing for the affiliate program that I entered into. So that was some of my experience into marketing and sales. And let's just say the things that I learned were effective, but they didn't always feel good. So let's continue on. So I already asked this question, right? And I'll ask it again in case you came in a little bit late. Um, have you ever felt uncomfortable on a sales call? Like you had to be someone you're not, right? So in addition to being on a sales call on the receiving end of that and not being comfortable, have you ever tried to do sales in a way that didn't feel like you? Feel free to drop a yes if you had that experience. I have, that's for sure. Say the price, then don't say anything. Okay. One of the first things I learned that I absolutely hate that I used to do that I don't do anymore is the action taker discount. The action taker discount. Hey, it's this price, but if you take action on the call, I can give you a discount for this amount. It worked on me. That's how I bought that shitty $3,000 affiliate program that was garbage. And I used it in other ways on those sales calls before I realized what a manipulative tactic it is. Okay, so the problem, right? You know you can help people. You're great at what you do. You're an expert. You care. Um, you're competent. You have passion. But when it comes to sales calls, something just feels off. You know it's important because if you don't get the sale, you don't get that good money. You can't help the client that you're meant to serve. So how do we go about solving this dynamic of, well, doing sales calls effectively? Because as good people, you deserve good money. But also, how do you do it in a way that feels authentic to you and actually converts prospects into clients? So, I'm not here to share scripts today. I'm here to share some frameworks that I've used and more than one framework because what I've understood is that once you understand these frameworks, you don't really need a script and you can choose or mix and match different frameworks. Okay, I just mentioned that already. Yeah, not here to teach you scripts. Not just the fundamentals, the methodology, and the energetics behind why some of these approaches work. So I was reflecting on what sales actually is, and this came to me that sales is simply a clear mutual understanding of the value being received in exchange for the money being paid. So however you go about engaging in sales conversations, that's it. It's just an understanding of the value that's being exchanged, and both parties feel it's agreeable and fair. And I said this in one of my posts, and Ben said, that's really good. So he validated that I say it again and again because it is good. Good people deserve good money. If you don't close a sale, you don't receive money for the value that you can provide. Another thing that I'm encouraging more of you to come up with, some in conversations, are what are your isms? What are the things that you as a brand say over and over and over again because it exemplifies what you believe for the benefit of your audience, your clients, just people who benefit from what you do. So one of my isms, one of my Justin isms is conversations about desired outcomes lead to sales. You probably heard me say it before. You can't say it enough. I mean, conversations, of course, but not just any conversations. Conversations about outcomes that people in your audience want, that is your passion to serve and deliver. Okay, skip this question here. Or you can respond if you'd like to. What makes you most uncomfortable about discussing price or asking for the sale? Yes. Yes, yeah. Think about your isms. It's going to be a post in my community soon, maybe tomorrow. Like, what are your isms? What are the things you say over and over again that you can say even more because, like your tagline, like your one-liners. All right, the yin and yang balance in sales. And this is why some people don't feel good about engaging in sales in certain ways or receiving sales conversations in certain ways. I believe it's just an imbalance. So, what most of us are familiar with is that overly yang dynamic, that overly masculine dynamic in sales, where there's push, there's force, there's aggression, there's manipulation, there's pitching even before there's consent to make an offer, um, artificial pressure, just like tactics, bro marketing comes to mind. But also, there's a dynamic where in sales, you may not be assertive or direct enough. You may be over listening without any direction. You may be supportive. You may not want to make people uncomfortable because you just want to nurture and make people comfortable. But as an expert, sometimes you got to make people a little bit uncomfortable so that they're aware that there's a problem that you can solve for them. Avoiding hard questions, no decisions made, no forward movement. And I'm sure if you reflect on these two dynamics, you're aware of which one is more dominant and which one you can balance just through awareness, which is why I share this. So the balance is just presence and direction, right? Really listening, really receiving what they're saying, but also being directive, also being prescriptive, owning your authority and expertise, to know that you can help the individual before you. And you can drop it in the chat if you'd like to. Which way do you typically lean? Yang too pushy or yin too passive? If you'd like to share, you can. Yeah. Reading some of the comments here to respond to. Fear is when you say the price, people will think I don't care or that I'm only in it for the money. Yeah. I believe us as human beings, we have an interesting relationship with money, and even more so when you enter into entrepreneurship and you're receiving money for your own offers. Used to be from pain to purpose and profit for digital marketing, looking to rebrand your isms. Oh, cool. Lots of cool isms. Yeah, awesome. Let's continue here. So the core sales flow that never changes. I mentioned before how it's a mutual understanding of the value being exchanged, service for money. So let's elaborate on that a little bit more. There is the current reality where someone's at. They're faced with certain challenges. They may be uncertain what to do, and there's the desired outcome, which is what I talk about. Conversations about desired outcomes lead to sales. What do they actually want to achieve? What is missing in their life? The gap is identified. What is preventing them from getting to their desired reality? Yeah, what is preventing them from getting to their desired reality? Whatever obstacles, goals, or challenges may be there, and your offer, your expertise, your solution, you're the bridge. You close the gap. You also collapse time. And, I advocate for high ticket sales. And I was having a conversation recently with an individual, and I do agree that even though it's easy to say high ticket sales, the reason why high ticket sales are authentically valuable is because they collapse time. High ticket should mean premium value from an expert who's going to help you accelerate the path to the solution that you can't get to on your own. So I like to mention that because it's not high ticket in regard to the price or being expensive. I believe high ticket's over $1,000 at least. But to just really exemplify that it's high ticket because it's a valuable solution, a premium solution that you wouldn't have unless you invested in that expert. Jarna, you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to have your take on maybe this as well, because like making people uncomfortable, like it doesn't really has to do with what you're saying, but maybe just by like triggering the part in them that knows that, okay, yo, fuck, I gotta take a step forward in some way. I think it's a positive way of making someone feeling uncomfortable if you know that what you're selling or what you're providing is of help, is of service. So I think I myself need to be comfortable in knowing that what I'm providing is of value. So I feel comfortable whilst I'm making someone else maybe uncomfortable. But this is a different thing. So I think we have to consider that.
Yeah. That's a good awareness. Yeah. I mean, you do have to be comfortable with your offer. And you have to be very confident in your offer to be even more comfortable offering it to someone else. And a bit of discomfort. We're not looking to make people like uncomfortable, but again, you think about like a doctor prescribing a solution, which is actually one of the frameworks I'll get into. Like people have problems. That's why they go to a doctor. Problems are uncomfortable. That's why you need to see a doctor. All right. So I'll talk a little bit about networking calls because I've networked with a lot of you. I believe in networking calls for business growth, and not just for meeting cool allies and colleagues and potential collaborators, which is often what happens, but also there's prospecting potential. I'm not going to lie and say I just network and I just let whatever happens happen. I have done networking calls that have led to um, enrolling customers or clients. So one thing that I believe in, regardless of what kind of call you go into, networking call, discovery call, sales call, is just to set the intention. I talk a lot about intention, but setting the intention another way could be setting the frame. What is the frame of the call? 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour long. If you set the intention, if you set the frame, then you're more likely to facilitate the result that you're looking to guide someone to rather than not having that. Um, so one frame that I like to use for networking calls that again has led to a lot of benefit, sometimes clients, sometimes colleagues, sometimes collaborators is like, hey, so grateful to have you on this call. We have about 30 minutes. I want to make the most of our time. So I'd like to state my intention, and if that's cool with you, it can be our intention. But if you'd like to add anything to that intention or adjust, that's okay too. Just let me know. People usually say, yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, so my intention is just to connect with you, get to know you a little bit, find out what you're working on, what's important to you, and I'll share some of the same, and we can see what may make sense after that. So no expectations other than to just connect and see what's possible between us. And it just flows, and people really respond well to the intention, to the framework. And also, I'd say that if you're doing networking calls to make solid connections or even to prospect, then being the authority by facilitating the conversation is to your advantage. And if other people don't do it, they're often grateful that you made the most of their time with them. So I would suggest doing something like this if you're not doing it already. Yep. A lot of people jump on networking calls without any direction. So if you provide that direction, it's beneficial to yourself and the other. Yeah, ask them to go first, especially if you sense that someone you're networking with has the potential to be a client or yeah, is a prospect or a client. Um, Let them talk about themselves first. And again, conversations about desired outcomes lead to sales. So just guide the conversation to see what comes up. And if you're like me, you might sense quite early on if you're networking with someone new and it's just like, all right, this is just someone I'm going to connect with. This is just a colleague. You kind of sense from the conversation if it's someone that you want to see based on what they have going on in their life, if there's someone you can help from your services or even your free community, just they can be helped by the value of your business, your brand, a little bit of help or a lot of help, like I say. Yeah, so this was a post in one of a post in my community, like how do you have a conversation with someone about the outcomes of your business? And it's just simple, right? So, for example, let's say, you're a confidence coach. Um, you just ask like, oh yeah, so what do you do? What are your hobbies? How's your relationship with, your wife? It just comes up. And then You just look for it, you ask questions, and naturally people are going to talk about the things that affect them. Um, yeah. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, what's one question you could ask on a networking call that would naturally lead someone to sharing something that they need help with just because you're curious? Okay, BAM fam. This is book a meeting from a meeting. Be crystal clear who you are, what you do, why you do it. So, if you have a good networking call, you want a BAM fam, especially if a networking call leads to a discovery call. So sometimes I'm looking for the BAM fam because it's on my mind. Does it make sense to have another meeting with someone? So if you're on a networking call and you sense you can help someone, I like to honor my networking calls. I don't like to change it into a conversation about how I can help someone. I usually say, well, if I could possibly help you with that, would you be open to exploring that on another call? And usually people say yes. And, leaning more into that yang dynamic, sometimes I'm reluctant to even make the ask. But when I do, people often say yes. So if you don't ask, it's already a no. So if you sense you can help someone, just ask. Okay, let's continue here. Right. More setting the frame, right? Um, and discovery calls, right? Let's just say you had a networking call and now you have a discovery call, or maybe you book a discovery call because just chatting with someone in the DMs or from your community, they're interested in how you can help them. So a frame that I like to use at the start of discovery calls, like, hey, good to connect, to make the best use of our time. My intention, again, about intentions, to find out where you're at with solving this problem, to understand what's in the way, to see if we're a good fit for working together. And if we are, we can discuss what that may look like. And if not, I still want to offer you some clarity and direction to help you move forward. Sound good? Um, and I like this frame, and I say it in different ways because what's important is not the script here, it's the understanding of what you're trying to convey. I like people at the start of any call I do with them to know that it's going to be a benefit. Like, hey, even if we don't work together, I want to offer you some tips, some suggestions, offer you some direction and clarity. How's that sound? And it just relaxes people. If people feel good about it, and I mean it too. I don't always see that with others, but it relaxes them and it feels good to me that I know I'm going to help them because I've stated it and that is my intention. So they're aware that it is a sales conversation, but they're also aware that even if they don't invest in you, there's going to be a benefit to them, right? So again, a little bit of help or a lot of help. A lot of help means they invest in you. A little bit of help means they get some tips and directions. Yes, I like that. I mean, leave them with the sense of increase after being with you. Right. Yeah. Right. There's probably another one of my isms now that I think of it. This is another one of my isms. I'll help you a little bit or help you a lot. And think about what it is for you. Like, what would you want to say on these calls to establish this feeling of like mutualism or no matter what happens, like they're going to be better off than when they entered the call. Yeah, quite good. Yeah, just, reiterating what I was saying before. And this is also what I'm modeling here in this community and on this call too. Like I'll help you a little bit or help you a lot. If you benefit from this workshop and that's enough to help you in your business, that's cool. And if every time you're looking for more help, we can always have a conversation about that too. Okay, so I'll go into some other frameworks for sales as well, but this is a new strategy that I've been using that's been working quite well for me. So sharing it with you because you might enjoy it as well. So I'm sure you're quite familiar with one way to go about explaining this framework is you frame, you dig, you pitch, you close. I'm not crazy about that framework or even the words for that framework. One that I like more is diagnose, um, prescribe, clarify, and invite. So, I mean, it's the same energy to the framework, but the words just make it so different, right? Diagnose, prescribe, clarify, invite. But with both of those, you usually mention the price of your offer after you've qualified. So this, you actually mention the price within the first 5, 10 minutes of working with someone. And I like it because sometimes I've been on calls and what the investment was way out of my budget. And I've wasted like 30 or 40 minutes of my time. Also, with someone just digging into my pain points, and it turns out I can't invest. And I've done the same with you. So one reason I like this is you don't waste any time. So someone on the call, they know that they're interested in your outcomes. You know they're interested, and you just state the price right away. And I do help people get more clients. So I say, um, if I were to help you get your first or your next high ticket client and to show you a duplicatable, repeatable process to do so, and you were to invest $3,000, what would I have to do to make it worth it? So there's no elephant in the room. There's no elephant in the room of like, how much is this going to cost? Like you feel it, they feel it. It's some of the uncomfortableness of like, well, how much is this going to cost? Why are they asking me all these questions to dig into my pain points? I know that they're asking me this because they're going to use that to connect it to the offer and the price. Um, and I've done this like 2 times in the last week, and I really like it. Because what happens is they tell you right away what they would want to receive for that amount of money. Like they're telling you what they want. They're telling you what that equal value exchange is that I mentioned at the beginning of the call. Um, but what people often do, and this is if you want to use this framework as well, um, is they often say they want that outcome. Like I'd want to be more confident, or I'd want that high ticket client. I'd want a return on investment. What I usually have to ask them is like, what about the support? What support would you need from me to achieve that outcome? And then they open up even more about that. What's also interesting is that individuals will often say that it's good, they would want that, but they're not in a position to invest at this time. Within the first 5 to 10 minutes, like if they can invest your target price point or not. And if you only have, one offer at a high ticket price, then you can begin to, help them a little bit right away. Okay, I understand. I still do want to help you, even though you're not a good fit for this program now. I know it's a little bit out of your range, but like I said, I do want to help you a little bit. So let me offer you some guidance. There are some resources in my community that I can send you after the call. Is that okay? 15 minutes. 15 minutes, right? No discomfort, no qualifying, no asking all these questions. You know they can't invest, and you just help them a little bit and move on. But what you can also do is if you have a lower ticket offer, you can begin to downsell them or offer them something right at the beginning because that they can't invest that price. Well, I do have a 1 month program for about $1,000. Is that something that is more comfortable for you? We can talk about the outcomes I can help you with for that. So this way you're working with them at the beginning based on what they can actually invest and what they actually want to receive. Part of this is also sometimes it happens that they state what they want as outcomes, the support, and you kind of reflect it back to them, right? So you want accountability and you want checklists, you want to know what to do every day, and you want to enroll your next or first high ticket client, and you want to clarify your offer. So if I could deliver all that, if I could support you with all of that, would you be able to invest $3,000 today for my support for 3 months? And based on that yes or that no, you're going to know how to continue the conversation. So after they say the yes, then you can continue on and go through one of these frameworks. Um, and if they say no, then again, that you can downsell or make another offer. That's pretty much that. Any questions about this before we continue? Cool. Yeah, I actually really like this one. I see myself using this as probably a standard, but it's not a traditional way to approach sales. Yeah, so this is an elaboration of this as well. Like I mentioned, I talked to speech to text, and they put these things together. Yeah, like I mentioned, what kind of support would you need to make that happen? What would make this a no-brainer investment to you? Um, and often what they say may be part of your program. So you can say, oh yeah, that's included as well. Here's another strategy that I like, and it's also in the realm of like I'll help you a little bit or help you a lot. So what this is I start with a discovery call, And on the discovery call, I say, um, yeah, well, I want to find out a little bit about what you're struggling with, what you're looking to achieve. And then after that, I'm going to create for you a custom roadmap, a custom plan. And this plan is what I would do for myself. It's what I would suggest to anyone. I would suggest that you do it. And then on this next call, when I present to you this custom roadmap, it's up to you if you want my guidance to go through this roadmap, through this path, or if you want to go through it on your own. So again, it's also good because there's like it's a win-win situation, right? Oh, I'm going to get a roadmap no matter what. I work with you, I don't work with you. I'm going to get a path forward for what I can do on my own. And it feels good to me, and people like it as well. And again, it's just you're honoring the person and their journey. You're going to help them based on where they're at. And of course, we want to enroll them as clients so we can really help them. But this is something I've also done that feels right, and people really like it. And even if you don't work with them, like they become like raving fans, they become brand advocates, they give you testimonials because you help them, like authentically help them. So that's the roadmap pathway strategy. Let me see if I'm missing anything. Yeah. Discovery call, just to recap, discovery call, stating that, yeah, Uzair here. Yeah, this is how I got my first client. Custom roadmap. Yeah. Yeah, so it works. It's a thing out there. I don't encounter it as often as some of these other strategies, but it's a really good one. Yeah, so discovery call, you tell them that you're going to give them a roadmap based on the questions you asked them, their answers. Between the discovery call and the sales call, you create that custom roadmap. Um, just by using like the recording you can use or notes. You can even use AI and Gamma like this to create like a visual PowerPoint or visual of the roadmap. And then on the next call, you present it to them and ask them, well, would you like my help to go through this? Okay, essential mindset and the paradise close. Um, I remember when I first did sales calls, it was just uncomfortable and I was tensed and I didn't relax. So keep it light, relax, have fun. Also, remember that you are the expert. Like, own it. So I believe in collecting payments on calls. The individuals in a buyer state, I've done it before where I didn't collect a payment on the call and they didn't buy. I also believe in collecting a deposit on the call or asking if they would like to collect a deposit on the call. I'm very honest about it as well when I ask for a deposit. I say, you know how these things go. You're serious about committing to this now, but sometimes what happens is that after the call, things happen. You may have second thoughts and you decide that, you don't want to do it, even though you know right now you want to do it and this is the best thing for you. Would you like to make a deposit just so that we know this is something that you're going to take action on because you're in the right state and you want my help? The Paradise Close. So I've talked about this before, and I've often experienced it where on a sales call after um, I buy something, like the call's just done. Also, if you don't buy something, the call is just done. So the Paradise Close is like spending a little bit more time with someone after they buy to make them feel really good about the transaction, like beginning to bring the value, beginning to help them, like a bonus, like it's like paradise, like they've invested the money, make them feel good about that purchase rather than just like enrolling them and scaling to the next call and then jumping off. And even if someone doesn't buy, like again, providing those tips or suggestions or encouragement to leave them better than when you found them, which is something someone said, right? The sense of increase after being with you. So another thing that I've seen and I've experienced is that after a sales call, you may sense that someone is close to working with you, but they're not quite ready. So what I've often seen is that there's no follow-up. They let it to their email list or whatever. So one thing that I've done that I learned from a mentor that I began to work with is a 1 month check-in strategy. So it might be, okay, um, I sense you want to work with me, but we've talked about that, but it may not be the right time. How about we check in for a call in about a month to see where you're at? And on that call, I'll book something on the calendar with them, just a short 30-minute call, just to check in with them. And I've done this several times where it has led to a client. where I just check in a month later. Sometimes it's two check-ins, sometimes it's 2 months later, sometimes it's 3 months. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to do any more of these because they just are going some other direction with what they want to achieve in life. But it's also very relational. And sometimes people just need a little bit more time to struggle on their own before they're ready to work with you. And it's just a casual check-in, like, hey, how are things? How are things going with this issue or this struggle, this challenge? How's your business doing? And sometimes I'll ask, like before the call, hey, we're just checking in tomorrow. Does it make sense to do a call? And sometimes they'll say, it's not really a good time. I'm good. But just having it on the calendar is a really easy relational way to just keep in touch with someone. And what's a few 30-minute calls over a period of a few months to enroll like a premium client that you really want to work with? Objections do happen. And I believe just honoring the objection and just understanding it and reflecting back to them your perspective of, what actually makes sense beyond that. Yeah, cool. Just responding here. This is how I got my first high ticket. I was checking with them a few times a week and helped them push through a difficult emotional situation, which is exactly my niche. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just enrolled a client as well, and it was just 3 calls over a period of time. Our first time was a networking call, like I mentioned. It was like, well, would you like some help with that? Would you like to explore what that may look like? It sounds like you have a lot to offer, but you're struggling to launch your own offer, but you have a lot of ideas. You want to talk about that. And then we did another call. It was a great call, but wasn't quite ready. So I said, okay, well, let's schedule a call a month from now. Um, 30 days from now, same time on this day, does it work? Yeah, sure. We talk and it was just a good fit. He was ready and then he enrolled. So I think it's a really easy thing to do, especially if you're a relational kind of individual, which I sense a lot of you are if you're here hanging out with me. Um, yeah, so mistakes that kill sales calls: waiting too long to discuss the price, being reluctant to discuss the price, over listening without direction. Again, as I go through these, you can kind of sense, is it like too much yin or is it too much yang? The first two would be too much yin energy for sure. Pitching before understanding, too much yang energy, not collecting payment on the call. This one might be just a lack of awareness of whether to do it or not, or thinking that people will buy afterwards. And I do hear different things about this. And again, it's also whatever gets you the results. Like if you're okay with letting people pay after the call and it works for you, that's okay as well. Ending without next steps, lack of clarity. Again, might not be yin or yang, might just be a lack of a structure or framework. Being unclear about your offer. Well, if you struggle with that, then you should talk to me. All right, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, what to do after this workshop? Review your current approach. You too yang, too yin, too pushy, too passive. Find that balance. Uh, Test out one of these frameworks if you'd like to. I do believe I mentioned a few things that are uncommon but work quite well, like leading with the price first, or the roadmap pathway strategy is quite good as well. What is your help a little or a lot frame? Like, what do you say at the beginning so that people are comfortable and they know, regardless, that you're going to help them a little bit, again, a direction or clarity, or a lot, like an investment. And you don't have to use my ism. You can make your own ism, right? It's the energy of just like, hey, I just want to get to know where you're at, so that I know if we're a good fit for working together. But even if we don't work together, I want to make sure that you have some solid direction to move you forward, no matter what. Get clear on your value, right? Like conversations about desired outcome leads to sales. What are the outcomes so that you can more easily have these conversations on networking calls, on discovery calls, or sales calls without needing a script? Um, yep, just a recap of what we have here. Um, my ism: conversations about desired outcomes lead to sales. I don't think I can say it enough. Balance that yin and yang energy. The core flow never changes. Current reality, desired outcome, gap, offer decision. Lead with the price or offer a roadmap, more things you may want to try. My ism again. Um, and great closing. It's just, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's just a mutual understanding of the value being exchanged, the service for the money.